Let's take a look at the Carnaby St dress. So in front of us right here, we have two versions. We have view B and we have view C, which have two different necklines, and this upper bodice and sleeve portion on view B, which is slightly different. Now you might recall view A in the pattern is where the lace edge is exposed and placed on top of the fabric that joins the dress and the sleeve. So for this example, we're going to use view B, which is sewn with that sequined or netting or tulle, whatever you have up on the top is sewn inside the seam. So as we take a look at both of these options, we have a few different ideas for embellishing either one. So with view C, there could be some simple embellishment right here along the neckline. You can add some kind of sequined trim or anything really just up here, up on the upper shoulders and down the neckline to create some added design details to this look. But this one on its own, especially in a crushed velour, has its own shimmer and is so simple but so elegant, perfect for the holidays. Now with view B, in this example, we have a rayon fabric that has some sparkle to it for the dress and the bottom portion of the sleeves. For this upper bodice area and the top cap of the sleeve, we have a sequined tulle fabric. We've lined it with just a plain black tulle, so it still has that element, that sheer element, where you can see through when the dress is on. Now this one on its own, I think it looks great because it's already so sparkly and sequined. If we wanted to add anything, we could add a little bit maybe along this seam line to just define the two different sections and add a little bit more shimmer. So the best way to embellish this is with something that's a little bit more simple on the top. For example, if you have a tulle, this is just a little dot tulle, but there's no sparkle, no sequin, no glimmer in this. So if we had used this for this top portion, this would be something more like a blank canvas that we could add some embellishment to, either hand sew some little flat sequins on, similar to the way this dress is designed, or take some larger cut elements and place them on top, covering the seams or just kind of working their way down onto the dress a little bit. Similar to some of these beautiful inspiration images. And here's another example that I'm going to use as the demonstration to add the embellishments. Now this fabric is taken from this pixie pack, originally designed for this 1, 2, 3 wrap dress, but we have them still in stock. I've used just the blue fabric from this kit and we have this cut out. So now when you see these kits available, we've added this sparkly tulle to it so that you can also make this dress instead, the Carnaby St dress, if desired. So here I have the dress pieces cut out of this blue fabric, and it's very similar to the black fabric that we have on the cover, but this also has some textured dot detail, but you can see the sparkle and the shimmer in this blue fabric. It's very lightweight, so it'll have a nice flow to it. So we have the bottom portion of the sleeve cut out. We're following for view B where that seam is going to be tucked inside. We have the backs cut and the dress front. And then here you can see the pieces we've cut from the tulle. So I have a plain white tulle, which is so transparent you can hardly see it. That I'm going to use as my lining or underlining to just keep this all nice and secure. And then we have this crosshatch tulle, which has a nice sparkle and texture to it. It has a little bit of stretch, which is why it's nice to use the additional tulle that we're going to sew underneath it, just to keep it all nice and tight and avoid overstretching when we sew this to the fabric. It'll add a little bit more structure to it. So we have the sleeve cap cut out, and then we have the dress front, upper bodice, and the dress backs. So when this gets put together, you're going to see the dress front and then this shimmery silver, which will be on top of this white, which will help kind of give it a little bit more sparkle here. And you can see as I have my hands underneath here That silver is going to attach to the top, and then it will attach to the top of the sleeve and the top of the dress back. So follow along for a quick sew along for view B, or you can skip straight to the second video and get started on the embellishment of the dress. First, we start with the shoulder seam sewn. This is the netting. We have the right side face up, and here is the tulle, which is the lining. We're going to place these now right sides together, lining up the shoulder seams, neckline, arms, eyes, and then stitch right around the neckline. Once we have that stitched, we're going to come in and just trim down this seam allowance. It will be visible when it's turned right side out, so you want to trim close to the stitching all the way around the neckline. Once it's trimmed, you're just going to flip that bodice right side out, pushing the net or the tulle underneath your sparkly mesh. And then you can carefully press this, use a press cloth, and it'll press that neck opening into a nice perfect circle. Go ahead and base the arm's eye edges and the bottom of the front and back bodice. Now we'll bring in the dress front and dress back. We're going to press that curved line straight. You can stay stitch that and clip into it if needed, and with right sides together, sew the bodice front to the dress front. Trim that seam allowance, flip it open. That seam allowance can be pressed up towards the bodice. Then we'll bring in the dress backs with right sides together. We're going to stitch that seam line on both sides. And here we have that stitched. Now we're going to open that up flat. We have that seam allowance pressed up towards the bodice as well. And we'll bring in our sleeves, which we've already sewn together following the same method. And sew those to the dress. And here we have them sewn, elastic casing sewn to the sleeves. We flip it over so that we have right sides together, and then we can line up both side seams. You want to make sure that you have the underarm seam lined up, your hemline lined up, and the sleeve hem lined up, and then just go ahead and stitch that. Repeat that on the opposite side, and then you'll go ahead and just finish the dress according to the instructions. And here we have it. So this is the basic dress finished, front view, back view. Now we're ready to embellish. We can do that along these seam lines. We have this beautiful bridal fabric. It's embroidered with bead and embroidery on it on the sheer tulle. So just follow along in the next video to watch how to apply all of that beadwork and embroidery to your dress.